I know we've heard this all before.
I mean, if they really want to improve the way that elections are conducted in Ohio, the answers are out there. Online voter registration, additional polling places, more opportunities to vote, quit cutting early voting. We think we'll be seeing more cuts to early voting as the session goes on and next session starts in January. Those are the ways to protect the integrity of Ohio's elections, rather than what all statistics have shown is merely, when you look at it percentage-wise, nearly non-existent voter fraud here in the state. They seem to be chasing after a problem that doesn't exist while ignoring fundamental positive reforms that would actually make voting better for all Ohioans.
What are your thoughts on the part of the bill that they say will provide financial help to poor, low-income Ohioans who don't have IDs? Do you think that is sufficient enough to address this problem?
No, they deal with the actual cost of the photo ID, not the documentation that you need to get ID. And I don't know if folks know how hard it is in Ohio to get ID now if you just start out. It costs a lot of money. You have to get your birth certificate. You have to have proof of residency now. It's very complicated. There's an organization in Cleveland called the Photo ID Collaborative, Crisis Collaborative, and they raise money to help people get the documents they need to get their ID.
What about the argument that so many people already use photo ID? You need it everywhere, a lot of other places. It should be easy enough. Why not?
Well, I mean, my sense is that while the overwhelming majority of voters are able to produce some sort of ID under current state law, that still leaves an awful lot of people out of the process. And voting used to be much simpler at one time in Ohio, and it didn't appear that we had any of these types of problems. I don't know what exactly has changed from then until now, but we still have a fundamentally strong voting process here in Ohio. It can always be improved. There's no doubt about it, in a variety of different ways, but photo ID should not be one of them. Photo ID keeps people from voting. It doesn't facilitate voting. And what we're about is making additional opportunities, more opportunities for people to vote here in Ohio, not less.
We raise a lot of interesting questions about irregularities, but they don't address the question of how photo ID is going to resolve those questions. It's very specific. All it does is show that you are who you say you are. People don't go in to vote and say, I'm you. There are other things that may be going on, and some of what they're talking about are, we need better co-worker training and things like that, but they haven't explained anything about why photo ID is going to prevent impersonating another voter. That's all it would prevent, and that doesn't happen. That one very narrow kind of thing just doesn't happen.
There was almost an indication though that those people aren't getting caught, that it does happen. Those people don't get caught because we don't have a photo ID.
They evidently are not aware of all the other protections that are built in, that there isn't any reason for voters to know that they're there. But your signature has to match the signature of your registration. And you go in to vote, you're very likely to run into a poll worker who knows you. And they have tests back in the Board of Elections that people aren't even aware of that catch all these things. I know there are errors that go on, but I don't think they're impersonation. That's all. Yes, there's fraud, and I can tell you some horror stories of fraud, but they're not impersonation of voters.
And there's plenty out there, plenty of statistics out there about the number of Ohioans that do not have a photo ID and the difficulties they would have to go through to get them. And what we're being asked to do here as a state or as a legislature is say that, well, we can't prove that there's all this voter fraud that we say is going on, but there must be some going on, and so we must take this extremely draconian step of instituting a photo ID to catch what we can't prove exists. That doesn't seem to be the way you improve elections here in Ohio.
They want to set up a whole new voter ID system for voting based on rumor. That's what we're talking about here. Now, the Secretary of State did a report. I'll agree with him on that one, the first report it's ever done. And it was a great report. And he basically found the system to be sound.
You mentioned that this is similar to the Indiana law that was upheld. Is that, as far as you know, is that the case?
Yeah, I mean, it's if this were to go into law and make it up to through the court system up to the U.S. Supreme Court again, there's always that question as to whether any of the distinctions with various laws make a difference to the court. Some people read things very broadly. Some people read things very narrowly. I think what the most important aspect of that in the Indiana case is look, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld a general scheme for photo IDs with voting, but notice that states haven't been jumping to take advantage of the opportunity that the U.S. Supreme Court has given them. And there's a reason for that, because they know that voter fraud by and large does not exist, and that putting additional barriers in front of people to vote is not the way that you go about holding elections. Yeah, Gary Daniels from the ACLU of Ohio.
How concerned are you that they're going to come back and want to either act on this or act on shortening vote early voting? Given that this bill has been around for a while and there has been really zero action on it, I think they might be overestimating the interest in the discharge petition in the House, let alone what the Senate and the governor might think of this should it come to them.